Malta to reach a final account of the carnage. 1 person killed in the hijacking of the jet, 59 people killed in the assault by Egyptian commandos who broke the siege. 9 children were aboard when troops stormed the plane. All were killed. 4 hijackers were killed, Maltese officials said, but a 5th survived, injured, unconscious today in a hospital. His name and nationality not known. As the Egyptian troops who led the assault packed their gear and left the island today, Malta's government expressed its grief.
The government feels deeply sorrowed and greatly disappointed at the way the hijacking incident came to an end.
At least 6 people had been shot by the hijackers yesterday before the raid was authorized. The pilot of the jet had described the shootings as executions. His radio conversations with the control tower had been ominous.
You can take the rest of the corpses from underneath the aircraft.
In fact, only Scarlett Marie Rokenkamp had been killed, but Maltese authorities said the situation had gone out of control and decided action was necessary. A foreign diplomat briefed by Maltese officials today said, necessary or not, the Egyptian raid was clumsy. It was supposed to have been a quick surprise attack. Commandos blew a hole in the cargo bay and charged into the cabin. They came in shooting, said one witness, and the hijackers responded by tossing hand grenades. The cabin filled with fire and smoke.
Tremendous amount of shooting. I think perhaps a lot of it was fairly indiscriminate. But you can't blame people for that when they're not sure who's got guns and who hasn't.
At least 2 passengers jumped for safety, only to be shot on the ground by Egyptian troops unsure if the escapees were hostages or hijackers. Only 27 people survived the assault. Captain Hani Galal was one.
So, I think the storming operation was very, very well conducted. Very well conducted, but we were not lucky.
Relatives of the dead and wounded began arriving here today, and like everyone else on this island, they had mixed opinions about what happened. Whether this solution to the hijack had been a painful necessity or a tragic mistake. Richard Roth, CBS News, Malta.
Only a handful of the estimated 81 people on board when commandos stormed the plane escaped injury. For them and the wounded survivors, Steve Croft reports from Malta, waiting for their promised executions was torture.
For the minority that survived, the quick fury of the commando raid, the flying bullets and exploding grenades, was less chilling than the hours of stark terror that preceded it.
There was a timer, and you heard it sort of bing, and you knew that if they didn't get what they wanted, the door would open. He would call to one of the Egypt Air stewards, and he and another one would have to lift the person that they wanted out and drag them to the door, because obviously some people didn't want to go.
From the hospital beds today, it became clear that even the lucky ones had made their peace and expected to die long before the Egyptians stormed the plane. The raid just accelerated the confrontation. If you'd left the hijackers alone, some said, they would have killed everyone on board.
He was killing the lady. He was coming again in the cockpit, drinking coffee, whistling and singing, without any emotional feeling in his face even. He was joking, he was telling stories.
They shot 2 Israeli girls. I'm not sure the condition of them. And then they picked out the American passports, and they tied our hands behind our backs, and I was the first one out. And they were going to execute me.
Patrick Baker, a fisherman from White Salmon, Washington, was not supposed to be alive today. He was marched to the front of the plane and out the front steps.
I was pretty calm about it. I just thought I was going to die. I was out there, and I considered jumping over the side, but it was too quick. I was let out, and maybe a second later, I felt an explosion in my head. It stunned me. I kind of rung my bell, but I was fully conscious, and I decided to slump on the stairs and play dead. I think I made a good show of it.
What was going through your mind when you realized that you'd managed to escape it all?
I wanted to laugh, actually. I wanted to laugh in the guy's face, but I couldn't do that very well because he missed. I still was afraid at that time that they might see me twitch or move and shoot me again. Some of the people were shot twice.
Someone tossed Baker off the airplane steps. He landed on top of a van and fell to the pavement. A few minutes later, he made his way to safety under the plane.
I am the lucky American. Yeah. I don't know why me.
There were, of course, far more unlucky people last night than lucky ones. As a rescue mission, it could hardly be called a success. But this time there were few options. There was no time to be bought, no demands to be negotiated except for fuel. Things could have turned out a lot better, one survivor said today, but I think it was the only thing that could be done. Steve Croft, CBS News, Malta.
The third and only other American on the plane was 30-year-old Jackie Nink Flug of Pasadena, Texas. The terrorists shot her in the head, too, and threw her onto the tarmac. But she survives, reported tonight in stable condition. For the mother of 38-year-old Scarlett Marie Rockenkamp of Oceanside, California, all hope was gone today when final confirmation came that her daughter was the only American hostage killed.
Scarlett is dead. I have felt it yesterday already. They were only waiting for footprints and a blood sample.
Who were the terrorist hijackers this time? Men the pilot called first-class killers whose leader sang and danced every time he pulled the trigger? At least two groups have claimed responsibility. Iran trains many such terrorists. But at the Pentagon, David Martin reports there's a strong suspicion that this time, once again, Libya had a hand.
Members of the Egyptian counter-terrorist team known as 777 received a warm welcome home today, while their government avoided any mention of the innocent lives lost in the rescue mission. The official account said the terrorists were killed, quote, without any harm coming to the passengers. The U.S., which had offered its help in storming the plane, continued to stand behind the mission.
The United States fully supports the difficult decision of the governments of Malta and Egypt. Rescue operations like the one undertaken at Luca are risky affairs, undertaken only in extreme circumstances.
But terrorism experts outside the government say 777 did not move quickly enough against the hijackers.
If you don't get them within the first 10 seconds, that gives them a time to think about the situation and regroup and maybe do harm to the hostages.
U.S. officials say 777 seemed more interested in killing terrorists than saving passengers.